Good evening. Welcome to the Oregon City regular meeting. It is April 11th at 7:04 p.m. We will open the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Ms. Evans, would you take a roll of council, please?
Mr. Davish?
Here.
Mr. Drake?
Here.
Mr. Horniak? Mrs. Paloff? Here. Mr. Reeves?
Here.
Mr. Wallensack?
Here.
Mr. Zale?
Here. Council, for reasons that I've already discussed with you, Mr. Horniak could not be here this evening. Can I get a motion to excuse him from tonight's meeting?
Mr. President.
So moved.
Mr. Reeves, thank you. Second by
Second.
Mr. Davish, thank you. Council, any objections? Mr. Horniak is excused from tonight's evening. Second, also present at the meeting this evening is Mayor Michael J. Safarian, City Administrator Michael Beasley, Clerk of Council Tina Evans, Law Director Melissa Purpura, Public Service Director Paul Roman, Assistant Fire Chief Mark Mullins, Assistant Fire Chief Jim Wolf, and Finance Director Darlene Huntermark. Council, first business for this evening is the approval of the meeting minutes for the March 14th and March 28th regular council meetings.
Mr. President,
Mr. Reeves,
I move to approve the minutes from the March 14th of 2022 and March 28th of 2022 regular council meeting as presented.
thank you, Mr. Reeves.
Second.
Second by Mr. Davish, thank you, Mr. Davish. Council, are there any objections? Hearing none, the minutes for March 14th and March 28th of 2022 have been approved. Council, we have public hearings scheduled or public hearings scheduled for this evening, and they are all for renewal applications for agricultural district. This will be item 79, item 80, item 81, and item 82. And I'm going to open the public hearing for all four. Then we'll vote on each of these items individually. So we'll open the public hearing at 7:07. With that being said, is there anybody to speak in favor of either of these agricultural districts? Is there anybody that's opposed to any of these agricultural districts? Hearing none, I will close the meeting at 7:08, and I will ask Ms. Evans to read item 79, 2022 into the record. What's that? That's right. Assign as ordinance, I'm sorry.
Approving inclusion of certain land situated in the city of Oregon, Ohio, owned by Walter T. and Yvonne H. DuPont into an agricultural district for a 5-year period and declaring an emergency.
Council,
Mr. President,
Mr. Davish.
move for passage of ordinance 79 of 2022 an emergency.
Thank you, Mr. Davish.
Second.
Second by Mr. Drake. Thank you, Mr. Drake. Ms. Evans, would you take a roll of council, please?
Mr. Davish?
Yes.
Mr. Drake?
Yes.
Mrs. Paloff?
yes,
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
Mr. Wallensack?
Yes.
Mr. Zale?
Yes, thank you, council. Ordinance 79, 2022 passes with 6 yeas and 0 nays. Next, I will assign ordinance 80, 2022, or item 80, 2022 as ordinance 80, 2022, and ask Ms. Evans to read into the record.
Approving inclusion of certain land situated in the city of Oregon, Ohio, owned by Daniel J. and Judith A. Leidy, A.S. trustees, into an agricultural district for a 5-year period and declaring an emergency.
Council,
Mr. President,
Mr. Davish.
I move for passage of ordinance 80 of 2022 as emergency measure.
Thank you, Mr. Davish.
Second.
Second by Mr. Drake. Thank you, Mr. Drake. Ms. Evans, would you take a roll of council, please?
Mr. Davish?
Yes.
Mr. Drake?
Yes.
Mrs. Paloff?
yes,
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
Mr. Wallensack?
Yes.
Mr. Zale?
Yes. Thank you, council. Ordinance 80, 2022 passes with 6 yeas and 0 nays. Next, I will assign item 81, 2022 as ordinance 81, 2022, and ask Ms. Evans to read into the record.
Approving inclusion of certain land situated in the city of Oregon, Ohio, owned by Jeffrey S. Martin et al. Into an agricultural district for a 5-year period and declaring an emergency.
Council,
Mr. President,
Mr. Davish.
I move for passage of ordinance 81 of 2022 an emergency.
Thank you, Mr. Davish.
Second.
Second by Mr. Drake. Thank you, Mr. Drake. Ms. Evans, would you take a roll of council?
Mr. Davish?
Yes.
Mr. Drake?
Yes.
Mrs. Pollock?
yes,
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
Mr. Wallenzeck?
Yes.
Mr. Zale?
Yes, thank you, council. Ordinance 81, 2022 passes with 6 yeas and 0 nays. Next, I will assign item 82, 2022 as ordinance 82, 2022, and ask Ms. Evans to read into the record.
Approving inclusion of certain land situated in the city of Oregon, Ohio, owned by Glenn E. Ackerman into an agricultural district for a 5-year period and declaring an emergency.
Council,
Mr. President,
Mr. Davish.
I move for passage of ordinance 82 of 2022 as emergency.
Thank you, Mr. Davish.
Second.
Second by Mr. Drake. Thank you, Mr. Drake. Ms. Evans, would you take a roll of council, please?
Mr. Davish?
Yes.
Mr. Drake?
Yes.
Mrs. Pollock?
yes,
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
Mr. Wallenzeck?
Yes.
Mr. Zale?
Yes, thank you, council. Ordinance 82, 2022 passes with 6 yeas and 0 nays.
Yes, yes.
Okay, council, I am going to go to the mayor at this point for an appointment.
Well, we got several.
We're gonna do them all.
I'm gonna, yeah,
Okay.
as long as I get going on it.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, council. With the personnel from the fire department here, we'd like to go through these, a promotion and appointments. And I will start and ask council's concurrence in the appointment of Mr. Austin Metzinger of 864 Hunters Run, Perrysburg, Ohio, to the position of firefighter 2, step 1, 29.20 or 25.29 an hour. Annual rate is $65,745.68. And that appointment will be effective as of April 18th, 2022. And I'd ask council's concurrence once again in the appointment to firefighter 2 to Mr. Austin Metzinger.
Council,
Mr. President,
Ms. Pollock.
I move to concur with the mayor's appointment of Mr. Austin Metzinger as firefighter 2.
Second.
Second by Mr. Wallenzeck.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Wallenzeck. Council, are there any objections? Hearing none, Mayor, council does concur with
Thank
the
you.
appointment of Austin
Thank you,
Metzinger.
council. Thank you, Mr. President. And next, I would ask council's concurrence in the appointment of Mr. Zachary Moore of 5430 White House Spencer Road, White House, Ohio, the position of firefighter 2, step 1, 25.29, annual rate of $65,745.68. And this appointment will be effective as of April 18th, also 2022. Once again, ask council's concurrence. Firefighter 2, Mr. Zachary Moore.
Council,
Mr. President,
Ms. Pollock.
I move to concur with the mayor's appointment of Mr. Zachary Moore to the position of firefighter 2.
Thank you, Ms. Pollock.
Second.
Second by Mr. Wallenzeck. Thank you, Mr. Wallenzeck. Council, are there any objections? Hearing none, Mayor, council does concur with your appointment of Zachary Moore.
And the next one is a promotion, and the promotion is to Mr. Joseph Pertee to the position of battalion chief, which is, will be starting at grade 32, step 2, an hourly rate of $33.15 an hour, which is a yearly salary of $82,755.40. And the promotion date would be effective as of tomorrow, April 12th, 2022. And I ask council's concurrence once again to the position of battalion chief of Mr. Joseph Pertee.
Council,
Mr. President,
Ms. Pollock.
I move to concur with the mayor's promotion of Joseph Pertee to full-time battalion chief.
Thank you, Ms. Paula. Second by Mr. Walenzak.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Walenzak. Counselor, are there any objections? Hearing no objections, Mayor, council does concur with the promotion of Joseph Pertee.
Oh, okay. I'm going to do the other ones in my report.
Very well, very well,
None of the others are here in present.
very well.
So is any of you new appointees like to get up and we give you, 20, 25 minutes to deliver something. Yeah. You just, or 15 or 20 seconds is.
You also have to resuscitate one of the old people up here.
And you have to go up to the podium.
You are? All right.
I just want to appreciate the opportunity from council, from all the guys in the back, Mayor. Appreciate you guys for putting your trust in me and appointing me this position. So
Congratulations.
Very good. I'll have you know it was better than any 20, 25-minute sample. All right, you guys can go unless you want to hang out.
Congratulations.
Hey, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Congrats.
Okay, council, since we did not have a committee of the whole meeting last week, we need to add items 83 through 88 to this week's agenda. Council, can I get a motion to do that?
Mr. President,
Mr. Reeves,
I make a motion to move items 83 through 88 to tonight's meeting.
thank you, Mr. Reeves.
Second.
Second by Mr. Davish. Thank you, Mr. Davish. I will, okay, the first item up for consideration is item 83, 2022, which is presented by Mayor Michael Safarian and Finance Director Darlene Huntermark.
We're going to start with Mr. Beasley and then he'll go on.
Okay. Mr. Beasley?
President, members, thank you. Just a quick note, members recall, I think it's about 6 years ago now, we started working together with the county on doing our CHIP program. It saves us on administrative expense and time, also makes more dollars available to the program. We do think and as we're looking at some things in our communication strategy, have to do some things to make sure we know that Oregon residents know about some of the opportunities for programming are available. City of Maumee now does it the same way we do, and they join in through the county program and make dollars available. And we'll get to see if Darlene has anything she wanted to add to it.
Huntermark.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, this program offers the no-cost home repairs to income-eligible homeowners. The application to apply is June 22nd, but we do still have some money available in our previous program. We got an extension on that due to COVID, so we do have things on our website if people are interested in applying for money that we have right now, in addition to what we'll have with this future application.
So
Thank you, Ms. Huntermark. Just a question. I think we're allocated, what, $350,000? Is that what our allocation is?
We don't get a specific allocation for the city anymore. It's all, they'll put together with Maumee and then Lucas County, not including Toledo.
Okay, but I thought I read in that ordinance that it actually spelled out that we can get up to $350,000 maximum. So the question I have though, we talk about this every year. How much money have we typically used in our city, roundabout, annually for this program?
Well, the program goes every 2 years. We got 356,000 with the 2015 program. The 2018 program, we had 319,000. This 2020 program, it's been really hard to get people into this. We've only spent about 70,000. So it gets to a point and then they'll try to get so many in Oregon, but if they can't, they're looking at Maumee or they're looking at outlier
Okay.
areas. So the more we can get, the more people that apply, that qualify, we can get more money for Oregon, but we've got to get them to apply for this.
Mr. President?
Thank you, Ms. Huntermark. Mr.
President-
Wallenczak.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ms. Huntermark, what is the income threshold to qualify?
It depends on the household size. So, household of one, the annual income is 39,450, and it goes all the way up to a household size of 8, which is 74,350.
And that flyer, is that available to the community on a website?
Yep, we've got it on the website, then we also have it in front of the tax stores
Okay.
down there.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Wallenczak. Council, any other questions or comments regarding this ordinance? Or this item? Hearing none. Ms. Evans, I will assign item 83, 2022 and assign it as ordinance 83, 2022 and ask Ms. Evans to read into the record.
Authorizing the
well.
mayor and finance director to enter into an agreement with Lucas County and the city of Maumee to file a combined application under the Community Housing Impact and Preservation Program to address local housing needs.
Council,
Mr. President.
Mr. Wallenczak.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move for passage of ordinance number 83 of 2022.
Thank you, Mr. Wallenczak. Second by Mr. Drake. Thank you, Mr. Drake. Ms. Evans, would you take a roll of council, please?
Mr. Wallenczak?
Yes.
Mr. Drake?
Yes.
Mr. Davish?
Yes.
Mrs. Pollock?
Yes.
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
Mr. Zale?
Yes. Thank you, council. Ordinance 83, 2022 passes with 6 yeas and 0 nays. Next item, which is also presented by Mayor Michael Safarian and Law Director Melissa Pura, is item 84, 2022, and I will defer to Ms. Pura.
Thank you, Mr. President. This resolution allows the continued participation for the city of Oregon in the Regional Combined Health District beyond the expiration date of our last agreement, which was December 31st, 2021. The Ohio Revised Code permits cities, villages, and townships within a county to establish a health district so that each city, village, or township doesn't need to fund their own. So by the Ohio Revised Code permitting this, in November 2nd, 1999, the Toledo Lucas County Health Department was established as our regional combined health district that the city of Oregon participates in. The Lucas County Health Department takes care of full administration of health and environmental affairs within the Lucas County General Health District that encompasses Toledo, Maumee, Oregon, Sylvania, and Waterville. This agreement has been amended from time to time to allow other cities and townships to be part of this district and also to extend the expiration date. So this resolution would extend the expiration date to December 31st, 2023. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Council. Mr. Beasley.
Just going to add as a note, the mayor and I had discussed this. We, Oregon, State of Oregon does appoint a rep. The mayor and I attends the one that's for the mayor or city administrator side. That meeting happens about once a year. But the regular health board meetings, we did reach out. We've been looking for a representative, and St. Charles Hospital said they're going to recommend someone that lives in Oregon that would be a rep. We probably be Matt Sapera that will be our rep on the board. That's on that health side, so it's something that's been, we wanted to get that done.
Thank you, Mr. Beasley.
And Mr. President, just so I can clarify one thing, the expiration, I apologize, is January 1st, 2023. I misspoke. I said December 31st. It's January 1st.
Thank you, Ms.
2023.
Pepora. Council, any other questions or comments? Hearing none. I will present item 84, 2022 as ordinance 84, 2022 and ask Ms. Evans to read in the roll or read into the record. What's that?
It's a resolution.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's a resolution, is it not? Yes, it is.
A resolution authorizing the mayor and finance director to enter into an agreement
Gets me
or
every time.
enter into an amendment to the Regional Combined Health District Agreement between the communities within the geographical jurisdiction of Lucas County to extend the agreement for the period of December 31, 2021 to January 1, 2023 and declaring an emergency.
Council,
Mr. President.
Ms.
Oh,
Ms. Pauloff.
Paula. I move for passage of Resolution 84 of 2022 and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Ms. Paulo.
Second.
Second by Mr. Davish. Thank you, Mr. Davish. Ms. Evans, would you read or take a roll call vote, please?
Mrs. Polloff,
Yes.
Mr. Davish?
Yes.
Mr. Drake?
Yes.
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
Mr. Wallenzeck?
Yes.
Mr. Zale?
Yes. Thank you, council. Ordinance or resolution 84, 2022 passes with 6 yeas and 0 nays. Next item for consideration is item 85, which is also presented by Mayor Michael Safarian and Fire Chief Dennis Hartman. And I will concur or defer to Chief Mullins.
Thank you, Mr. President. This $35,000 that you see before you actually represents about $2,800 each in turnout gear. And this will enable us to purchase about 10 sets this year, keeping in mind that the 2 new employees that we hired this night will need 4 sets because it's mandatory through the National Fire Protection Agency that each member have 2 sets of turnout gear. That's in the event that they go into a fire, it gets damaged, or needs to be cleaned, they must immediately go into another set. So in that, those 4 sets immediately come out of that 10, that leaves us about 6. But the remaining money, it gives us a little bit of room to buy new gloves and some boots. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, Chief. Council.
Mr. President,
Ms. Paulo.
I do have a question. I know, excuse me, did we do a set earlier? This is the first set of this for this year?
This is the first set for this year, and then something else I want to add, that turnout gear is only good for 10 years. So we have to rotate that every 10 years as well, just like,
So the last time it
investment.
was 10 years ago
I
that?
think the last time was last year.
Last year.
Okay, but since they need 4 each,
You need 2 each,
okay.
but 4 sets of that, right now is going to go to these 2 new guys we just hired.
Now, when they go 10 years, is it a warranty issue with the age of them or the condition?
So it's just like a bulletproof vest. It's only good for so long. Just like turnout gear. It's made of the same material. It's made of Calvar.
Okay, thank you.
So, Chief, with the 10-year limit that we have in these right now, and we did purchase some last year. I think we actually purchased some the year before.
Correct.
So we're planning on doing this every year, but a smaller amount
So what
as
happened
they come
is,
through?
Mr. President, what happened was that we try to replace 10 sets every year. And so that puts us into this, where we're replacing them on a regular basis instead of hitting the city up for hundreds of thousands of dollars like we did originally. We had to replace everybody's.
Yeah.
So it just puts us into a rotation and replacing it on a regular basis.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Chief.
Mr. President.
Ms. Paulo?
So compared to 10 years ago, how many sets are you needing now? I mean, how many are you outfitting?
Well, 4 will go to the new guys and then 6 more will go in rotation this year.
Okay.
Council, any questions or comments? Hearing none, I will sign item 85, 2022 as ordinance 85, 2022, and ask Ms. Evans to read into the record.
Authorizing the mayor and finance director to purchase turnout gear for fire department personnel from Phoenix Safety Outfitters, PO Box 20445, Upper Arlington, Ohio, in an amount not to exceed $35,000 and declaring an emergency.
Council.
Mr. President,
Ms. Paulo.
I move for passage of ordinance 85 of 2022 and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Ms. Paulo.
Second.
Second by Mr. Wallenzeck. Thank you, Mr. Wallenzeck. Ms. Evans, would you take a vote of council, please?
Mrs. Polloff?
Yes.
Mr. Wallenzeck?
Yes.
Mr. Davish?
Yes.
Mr. Drake?
Aye.
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
Mr. Zale?
Yes. Thank you, council. Ordinance 85, 2022 passes with 6 yeas and 0 nays. Next item for consideration is item 86, 2022, which is presented by Mayor Michael Safarian and Public Service Director Paul Roman, and I will defer to Mr. Roman.
Thank you, Mr. President. This ordinance is needed to amend several job descriptions in the Public Service Department. A summary of the changes are included in Exhibit A. Bulk of the changes are to further define the commercial driver's license, or the CDL requirement. And it's really further defining it as a Class A CDL with air brakes and tanker endorsement. So that goes on a lot of the job descriptions that are required to have a CDL. Also, at the wastewater treatment plant, we no longer land apply sludge. And with that, a CDL is no longer needed by the operators. So we've removed that from their job description. We've also added the requirement of a Class 1 EPA wastewater or water treatment license to their job descriptions. Most cities have that as a requirement. We would have it so that they obtain that license within 2 years. We've added the same to the water treatment plant operators. And then finally, the heavy equipment operator job description, we revised the description to state 2 years of heavy equipment operation in lieu of just having 2 years of maintenance activities. So it's further defined as heavy equipment operations. So that's it. And we discussed everything with ASME as well. And a lot of this is just follow up from our last year's negotiations. So.
Thank you, Mr. Roman. Council, any questions or comments? Hearing none. I will assign item 86, 2022 as ordinance 86, 2022, and ask Ms. Evans to read it in the record.
An ordinance amending the classification plan of the City of Oregon as approved by Ordinance 90 of 1986 and Ordinance 69 of 2019 by revising and updating various job descriptions for employees in the Department of Public Service of the City of Oregon and declaring an emergency.
Council.
Mr. President,
Mr. Davish.
I move for passage of ordinance 86 of 2022 as an emergency.
Thank you, Mr. Davish.
Second.
Second by Ms. Pauloff. Thank you, Ms. Pauloff. Ms. Evans, would you take a vote of council, please?
Mr. Davish?
Yes.
Mrs. Polloff?
Yes.
Mr. Drake?
Yes.
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
Mr. Wallenzeck?
Yes.
Mr. Zale?
Yes, thank you, council. Ordinance 86, 2022 passes with 6 yeas and 0 nays. Next item for consideration is item 87, 2022, which is also presented by Mayor Michael J. Safarian and Public Service Director Paul Roman. And once again, I'll go to Mr. Roman.
Thank you, Mr. President. This ordinance is needed to proceed with the construction of the Navarre Avenue and Coy Road intersection improvement project. Out of the 2 bids received, E.S. Wagner was the lowest and best bid. E.S. Wagner's bid was over our estimate by 9%. It does meet the ODOT requirement, but considering with the inflation that's ongoing right now, we felt pretty lucky with E.S. Wagner's bid. So, they've done a lot of work for us in the past, and we'll do a great job. So, other than that, we are planning to start this work late May, early June. And most of the work should be done by the end of the year. We still may have to wait for traffic light equipment, which just due to long delivery time, unfortunately. And we will see a lot of lane restrictions on Navarre come summer months. Some of the work that's going to start out isn't our work, but is by Columbia Gas. They're replacing a 20-inch gas line in the southern eastbound lane. And that may have a Coy Road closure. We'll also, the Coy Road Bridge for Amlash Ditch just north of Navarre will have a 60-day closure as well on Coy. So there's going to be some heavy construction in that intersection. So, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Roman. Council, any questions or comments for Mr. Roman?
Mr. President.
Mr. Wallenzeck.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Roman, on that closure on Coy, how are they going to route traffic on Coy? Are they going to try to work with Lorenzen, I think, who owns
Yeah.
that property, and run it through there, or are we running it around the block?
We would have to run them around the block, but people will travel the best way
Yeah,
they
that's what I'm
find, you know,
thinking.
so that'll happen.
We just have to prepare.
Yeah.
Do we prepare for that, or?
Oh, yeah, there'll be public notices that there'll be an upcoming closure and for Coy, and then we'll post a detour, yes.
Okay.
So it'll be at Star, to go Loundorf or Wheeling,
Yes.
Yeah, it'll be a big block.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Wallenzeck.
Mr.
Mr. Roman, go ahead.
And I just wanted to point out too on the funding, we did, I think you guys are well aware of it. I'll just state it for the record that we do have 1.7 million in grant funding from Federal Highway and then 800,000 from OPWC. So going towards that, but overall it's a $3.6 million project with design and construction. So it's a big project. So.
Thank you, Mr. Roman.
Mr. President.
Mr. Reeves.
Thank you. Mr. Roman, I know that, hearing what you're saying of, like redirecting traffic down Wheeling, and I know that you've probably have witnessed it yourself as well as citizens and us as well. Something will have to change with that, the traffic, lights there, because either heading, whether you're heading, south or north on Wheeling, 3 cars, maybe 4. The 5th one always runs the red light. I mean, if we're gonna be redirecting traffic that way, we're gonna have to have that extended somehow or some way. So if you could please start, addressing that now, I think, I mean, I know it's a state route, correct? That's who controls the lights?
No,
we
we do, and we could adjust the timing, and we do that. And it's hard until you actually do it, unfortunately. You set up your detour for what you know, what roads can handle the traffic. Like, again, a private property, we couldn't direct, traffic through. People will travel the way they feel best. They'll find their own path eventually, but that first, second, third day you do it, that's where you find yourself adjusting all the timing, but we can do it.
Yes, please. I know the citizens would greatly appreciate that too. Thank you.
Mr.
Thank you,
President,
Mr. Reeves. Ms. Paulo?
and I know it's off of this ordinance, but when you're directing traffic off of Route 2 and you're going down Star to Lallendorf, that's all residential through there. And for 2 months, I mean, I was thinking Brown, Curtis Road, where, Wheeling to those streets.
Well, again, it'd be so if we do some of the Coy, it'll only be either the north side at one time or the south side at one time. Columbia Gas probably would be first on the south side. But yeah, you post it. I think Wheeling probably would be the appropriate detour. If not Seaman or Star, you can take your pick, but it probably would be to Wheeling and versus Lallendorf. Okay, or maybe you could use Wynn. Just depends,
I was thinking more on the lines of semi-traffic.
Yeah,
Because
and there,
semi-traffic is, I mean, if a lot of them are going down Wynn Road to get to the industrial area, it would be best to just make sure they get off at I-280 and go down, or get off at Front Street, go to Millard for semi-traffic.
well, well, first of all, Navarre is just lane restrictions. I mean, and Coy is, so Coy does have its own weight restrictions further south of, let's say, Dustin, although we struggle with Menards trucks. But for the most part, I think other than delivery trucks to the stores that are there on Navarre, I don't know if you'll have as much truck traffic looking to detour from using Coy to Navarre, other than the tankers that are going to that gas station. I mean, so, but yeah, either way, I think whether we use Star or we use Seaman, I mean, it's something we're still looking at, trust me, but we're gonna have to use the big blocks to detour traffic.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Paulo. Thank you, Ms. Roman. Council, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I will sign ordinance 87, 2022, item 87, 2022, as ordinance 87, 2022, and ask Ms. Evans to read into the record.
Accepting the bid of E.S. Wagner Company 840 Patchen Road, Oregon, Ohio for furnishing labor, materials, and equipment for the LUC 2-22.51 Navarre Coy Intersection Improvement Project, authorizing the mayor, director, public service, and finance director to enter into a contract with said contractor and declaring an emergency.
Council,
Mr. President,
Mr. Davish.
I move for passage of ordinance 87 of 2022 as emergency.
Thank you, Mr. Davish.
Second,
Second by Ms. Paulo. Thank you, Ms. Paulo. Ms. Evans, would you take a vote of council, please?
Mr. Davish?
Yes.
Mrs. Polloff?
yes.
Mr. Drake?
Yes.
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
Mr. Wallenzek?
Yes.
Mr. Zale?
Yes, thank you, council. Ordinance 87, 2022 passes with 6 yeas and 0 nays. Next item for consideration is item 88, 2022, which is also presented by Mayor Michael Safarian and Public Service Director Paul Roman. And once again, I will defer to Mr. Roman.
Thank you, Mr. President. And this ordinance is to enter into what's called a local public agency agreement with ODOT. It really defines the responsibilities between the city and ODOT for a project which receives grant dollars. We received $500,000 grant from the Federal Highway Administration for resurfacing Coy Road. And this is in several sections. In the back, there's maps that show it, but on Coy, between Flights and Warden is one section, and then on Coy, just north of Navarre, from the safety project, all the way to Seaman will be resurfaced. And yeah, the project also includes adding sidewalk on the west side where there's gaps, where there's no sidewalks now. You know, it'll be a full walking path on the west side. Total project costs $935,000, and we'll likely go to bid in 2024 for this. So this is just setting that all up so that we can proceed with everything. So.
Thank you, Mr. Roman. Council, any questions or comments?
Mr. President,
Mr. Drake?
Paul, do you know what side of this road they're planning on doing the sidewalks?
Mainly on the west side.
The west side?
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. And the map does show that, by the way.
Okay. I'm not a good map reader, but I'll
Okay.
try to figure it out.
Thank you, Mr. Drake. Council, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I will assign item 88, 2022 as ordinance 88, 2022, and ask Ms. Evans to read it into the record.
Authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with the Ohio Department of Transportation for funding from the Federal Highway Administration for the bid and construction of the LUC-CR 556-1.83 Coy Road resurfacing project PID 116040 and declaring an emergency.
Council?
Mr. President,
Mr. Davish?
I move for passage of ordinance 88 of 2022 on emergency.
Thank you, Mr. Davish.
Second,
Second by Ms. Pauloff. Thank you, Ms. Pauloff. Ms. Evans, would you take a vote of council, please?
Mr. Davish?
Yes.
Mrs. Pauloff?
yes,
Mr. Drake?
Yes.
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
Mr. Wallenzeck?
Yes.
Mr. Zale?
Yes, thank you, council. Ordinance 88, 2022 passes with 6 yeas and 0 nays. Council, that concludes our legislation for the evening, and we will now move to the mayor's report.
Thank you, Mr. President and Council. That's why I reserved a couple of these appointments, so I'd have something to say in my report. And so I will move from the engineering department and ask council's concurrence in the appointment of Mr. William Bedubo. Does that sound good, Paul?
Yep.
All right. 2321 Rock Spring Road, Toledo, Ohio, to the position of engineering intern. Classification 3, step 3, $15.75 an hour. And the effective startup date would be May 16th, 2022. Once again, as council's concurrence in the appointment to engineering intern, Mr. William Medubo.
Mr. President,
Mr. Davish?
I would like to concur with the mayor of the appointment of Mr. William Medubo as engineering intern effective May 16, 2022.
Thank you, Mr. Davish.
second,
Second by Ms. Pauloff. Thank you, Ms. Pauloff. Council, are there any objections? Hearing none, Mayor Council does concur with the appointment of Mr. Medubo.
Okay, and then from the Recreation Department, ask council's concurrence of Ashton Latta of 29845 Oregon Road, Perrysburg, Ohio. Classification 1, step 5, $13.25 an hour. And this appointment will be effective from April 11th through April 1st, 2023. And I would ask council's concurrence once again to the appointment of Ashton Latta.
Council?
Mr. President,
Mr. Reeves?
thank you. I move to concur with the mayor's appointment of Ashton Latta from, as a ground crew worker, number one of, for the hiring date of April 11th, 2022 through April 1st of 2023.
Thank you, Mr. Reeves.
Second.
Second by Mr. Davish. Thank you, Mr. Davish. Council, are there any objections? Hearing no objections, Mayor, council does concur with the hiring of Ashton Latta.
Thank you. Lastly, we did swear in Gabby Carlin as a police officer today. She'll be soon on the job. And I think in a few weeks, we'll be swearing in three others. and we'll be up to full strength and look forward to seeing Gabby on the road.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And that would conclude my report.
Mr. Beasley.
Mr. President and members, just a note on the Coy and of our construction. I mean, obviously, any disruption on an already busy street is something we all notice, and your constituents and our residents will notice, and you'll be in touch with them. I just want to remind us of how much the disruption is really kind of worth the price, though, how much safer Wheeling and Navarre is. I mean, the accident fell, what, 85%. Accident rate fell 85% after that investment in the other corner. It's so much more attractive and it's so much safer. We have a high accident corridor at Coy, and it will be a mess for a while. We know it, but it pays off. And it's kind of the fourth of our major construction projects for the year with obviously the fire station, the town center roadway work, the EDA funded road in the north side of our industrial area. And this project is kind of probably the most important of them, though, in terms of a note for the community. And do long-term, though, again, we are looking to then continue that look all the way to finish the gap between Isaac Street's Drive and ultimately this intersection improvement. So we're excited about that and excited about what it means moving forward as we go. So thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Beasley. Ms. Pepora.
No report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Ms. Pepora. Mr. Roman.
No report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Roman. Mr. Reeves.
Thank you, Mr. President. No report from my standing committee, but my family and I would like to thank everyone for your kind words and thoughts on the passing of my brother on April 1st. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Reeves. Mr. Drake.
No report.
Thank you, Mr. Drake. Mr. Wallensack. Thank you, Mr. Wallensack. Mr. Davish.
No report.
Thank you, Mr. Davish. Ms. Paula.
Thank you, Mr. President. No report from my standing committee, but I really would like to wish all of you guys a happy Easter.
Thank you, Ms. Paula.
You're welcome.
Happy
Thank you.
Easter.
Thank you. That's it.
That's it?
That's
Thank
it.
you, Ms. Paula. The only thing I have to bring up is the committee hearing that we had today regarding the location or feasibility of a citywide garden. I think the meeting was somewhat productive. I think we might have made more of it than what it really is, but we'll continue to discuss it and we'll move along. I think it's something that we can actually accomplish, and I think it's going to be fun. Other than that, I don't have anything further. Can I get a motion to, we have nobody signed up to speak in front of council today. So can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Second.
Second by Mr. Davish. Thank you, Mr. Davish. Council, are there any objections? Meeting is adjourned.